Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Unbridled and Entitled. I'm Russ Flicker.
Hey, Russ and Lori Rothman. Thrilled to be along as your co-host once again.
It's great to be back. And we always like to give you just a little bit of a reminder to make sure you know where you are. And in this case, I would say if you have mentally healthy relationships with family and friends and feel like nothing's missing, you're probably in the wrong spot.
Yeah, if you're just totally fulfilled as an independent, productive human, maybe not the right podcast. On the other hand, if you adopt pets to fill a dark and stormy void in your life, then hey, you landed in the right place. And that's our topic today. We're going to talk about pets and pet owning and all the good, mostly good, very little bad that goes along with that. And I guess, Russ, just in the interest of being transparent and open, we're both dog people.
We are. We are definitely dog people. We both have gaping holes in our soul that we were trying to fill.
That is not totally true, but I will say I have 3 dogs. I know we're going to get into that a little bit more, how that happened, how I ended up with 3 dogs. But they're just wonderful. They're a wonderful addition to the family, and they do sort of soothe the anxiety that I tend to
We won't draw any conclusions about how
around.
dark your dark place is, that you needed 3 dogs to try to fill that void, if you will. But no, I'm with you. I'm with you. And I've had 2 dogs. I only have 1 right now, sadly. But
Yeah,
yeah, we're all dog people.
R.I.P. Rest in
Exactly.
peace.
Exactly. In fact, that reminds me, I'll just going to tell you one quick dog/child joke, which I enjoy. It's a true story of how I named the first dog I ever had. I wasn't a dog person growing up, and I didn't even want a dog. But that's a really more of a conversation about marriage. So in any case, we're getting our first dog, and we're deciding how to name the dog. And the kids are little, and so we each put names in a hat of what name we want the dog to be. And they put ridiculous names for the dog. And I pick out the name of the hat. And lo and behold, I choose Grande, which is the name I put in there because he's medium sized and he was half calf. But it
And
wasn't
because you're
until
obsessed with the movie, what's Macho Grande? What movie am I going for?
yes,
What was
yes,
that? Airplane. Hello. It's
Airplane.
Saturday morning. We're recording on a Saturday morning, and I'm not quite awake yet. But yeah, wasn't Ted Stryker a fighter pilot over Macho Grande? Anyway, I interrupted the story. Carry on.
Striker. I and also because I'm a big Starbucks guy. But in any case, my kids for years they were like, I can't believe imagine the luck, Dad, that your name is the one that you picked out of the hat. And it wasn't literally until many years later that I explained to my kids, I don't even know what piece of paper I picked out. I just said my name, the name I wanted. And they were crushed that I had used this false democracy in front of them. So in any case, sorry about that. Long story
So is
about
that
how
this the beginning of a long trend of you lying to your children?
I tried to tell them I was very comfortable lying to them at all times. Yeah, I never hid that from them. But it's come back to bite me now because now they're very comfortable. So what are you going to do?
All right, so we can go on and talk about. We have a lot of dog stories and pet owning stories, and just kind of we wanted to have a discussion on just what how our culture has just sort of brought pets into almost, I love the term anthropomorphize, right? Where we almost humanize them. They're full-fledged members of our family. But I know we also had some news items actually that caught our attention as well this week. I know
Yeah,
you saw Billy Joel in concert, correct?
I did. I went to Tampa with a few friends I have from high school, which was great. And we saw Sting and Billy Joel. And the amazing thing is two things that come to mind. One is that Billy Joel has a new song out, right? That Turn the Lights Back On. And I think for those of us who I'm a Long Island guy, so those of us who grew up with Billy Joel, in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, it was really special. It was a special time, so I loved going there. And now,
And
are you familiar with Bill? Are you a Billy Joel fan?
so, believe it or not, yes, I'm not from Long Island. Mike is. My husband is. Although, interestingly, he's more of a Springsteen guy, but he does like Billy Joel. And we've brought our kids to Billy Joel at Madison Square Garden as well. And it was wonderful family. event. My girls, as I've mentioned in the past, are teenagers. And I guess because of social media, TikTok in particular, they really know these songs. Um, and it's kind of interesting how the successful artists of yesteryear are continuing that by taking advantage of um, the social media platforms that the kids today are
It's
into.
it's wild. I mean, I remember before going with my kids to see Billy Joel, hearing on their phones them on TikTok listening to Vienna or some what at the time were kind of called deep tracks of Billy Joel's that have become famous, and of course not just Billy Joel. You're right. It's wild that they know many of the songs from our childhood.
So TikTok's really opened a can of worms for you, from what I understand.
It has. And here's another TikTok thing that strikes me. I'll be scrolling on TikTok like the 15-year-old boy I am, and I will say something will be referenced, and I'm mature enough to understand that it's sexual, but not smart enough to have any idea what it is. And so recently I had to look up what the thirsty hamster was. And I will tell you, do not look that up when you're at work. I mean, I don't know what I'm finding, but it's wild.
All right, wait. Let's drill down on this. You can't just throw out the phrase thirsty hamster and move on.
Well, it's a,
Because I had never heard of this either until you brought it up as a potential subject for this podcast. And while I wanted to feign horror and disgust, it's actually a pretty impressive phrase description for what it is. And the visual is so spot on that I actually think it could be something they could make a sculpture of and, put in the Museum of Modern Art. But anyway, okay, I'm leaving it up to you. You started, you brought it up. So the
the thirsty
thirsty
hamster.
hamster.
If you're not familiar with the thirsty hamster, I think men everywhere are deciding to check out their moonroof again in their car just to see if it opens all the way, sunroof, moonroof. If you have a convertible, it doesn't work as well. You need the moonroof or the sunroof for the thirsty hamster. I will tell you that it does. It is an apt description. But the hamster's head looks uncomfortable in that position to drink. And that's all I can say about that. But I will tell you on TikTok, there are so many of these things that I have then Googled. I've now learned my lesson. I have to look around to see who's watching me when I look these things up because I'm learning new things every day.
I mean, we are talking about pets on this episode. So this story actually is perfectly appropriate
Okay.
to share within our umbrella of pets and whatnot. But
And this
yeah,
is
it
the
reminds
bubble
me of
of,
the Urban Dictionary. Did you ever check that out?
yes, the Urban
Where
Dictionary.
you just want to make sure you're with people who you really know and trust, because some of those terms are shocking as well. And we don't need to list them all. Just you can Google Urban Dictionary. But what I also wanted to point out and talk to you about is, just a couple of years ago, you had to manage your social media, what you put out there, the pictures, your updates, and whatnot, because you want to have obviously a professional profile. You want any potential employer or anybody who's trying to whatever, you're just all out there. But now it's like you really have to watch your search history, Russ, too.
Ooh, you told me that. And I
You
remember
know,
as you were telling me that, I was scrambling desperately on my
clear,
computer.
clear, clear.
Well, the one thing that's very comforting about getting older is when you get to a place where you realize you're unemployable. It's very comforting. You know what? Like I'm past that. I'm totally unemployable. It's perfect.
But what about the people who, worked for you or still do work for you, which there are a few? I
There
mean, it
are a
probably
few.
makes them think that you're a cool dude, which you are. So
I have
I don't
always
know.
kept. Let me say this, even from, and this, of course, this does go back to as this part of technology was just being formed. I kept a separation between church and state. I do not have work people on
Hmm.
my Facebook account. Even
Right.
saying Facebook makes me sound 100 years old, but so I don't have that connection, and I try to keep it separate. Now, I realize as time's gone by, clearly with 3 clicks, anyone from my office could find my personal pages, my personal Instagram, my TikTok, probably. And so there is going to be some of that overlap. And
Right.
I think I'm fortunate that at least it only goes in that direction. But I'm probably unemployable.
Listen, I doubt that. I think you're being a little self-deprecating, but you mentioned well, actually, we mentioned at the top of the show my three dogs, and that's pretty much all. Or actually, no, you mentioned Facebook. That's where I was going with this. Sorry, again, Saturday morning, not enough coffee. I'm guilty of just posting pictures of my dogs. Every now and then, a kid, maybe Mike, but yeah, I don't know. So, what do you think that my profile says about me? From my pack to yours, happy National Dog Day.
I love it. I love it. I think the idea that that if someone posts, multiple pictures of their dogs
Hmm.
relative to every picture of them, every other humble brag, let's say, of something else, I think that's a very positive thing. I think it says something very nice about you that you've got that you and your dog crew, if you will, and you got the whole crew.
There were some wonderful, heartwarming stories recently involving celebrities, notable people with opinions, and dogs from like opposite ends of the spectrum. This is what you pointed out. We had Jon Stewart recently returning to The Daily Show, doing a whole segment on his dog passing away, broke down into tears. It was so touching. The rescue organization that he and his family had adopted from, just from that piece alone, Jon Stewart helped raise tens of thousands of dollars. And then, kind of on the opposite end, you have Dave Portnoy, Barstool Sports, adopting this adorable pit bull. And he, in like a second, raised, I mean, an incredible sum, something like $300,000 for that rescue organization. And by the way, the content that both are putting out is just adorable and heartwarming and really just makes you feel like good about humanity.
It does. It
I
shows
have
the
to
nicer
say.
side of people, and I think that's I'll say it shows they let down their guard down in both cases. Obviously, well known public figures, but let their guard down a little bit. And Jon Stewart, who I'm not a huge fan of, but certainly seeing that heartfelt, you couldn't help but be moved. It was real, right? That was a real moment, and we can all come together and say, oh my gosh, I lost my first dog, Grande, and it was crushing. It was crushing. So I didn't. If you're not a dog person, by the way, you don't realize how real that emotional connection is. And I wasn't growing up. I didn't realize it. Then I had a dog that I didn't want, and then he became my dog, and we had a relationship that was very real. Yeah.
It's my favorite kind of small talk, when you're in a party and you're a little uncomfortable. Maybe it's more me than you. I'm a little bit introverted. But I always default to the pet conversation and what kind of dogs or cats or whatever do you have? What kinds are they? Did you rescue them? Blah, blah, blah. How do you walk them? What do you do? We're in the Northeast. So, what's the winter solution? Do you do play dates? Blah, blah, blah. So I don't know. I feel like it's a real connector, maybe a uniter. We're in an election year. Who knows? But then I was thinking, well, President Biden's dog Champ, right? Didn't they just have to rehome it because it was biting Secret Service again? So I don't know. That kind of crushes my hopes, my hopes and dreams for the future that our
I
country
thought he.
comes together. But
I thought Biden was going to go a little Mitt Romney and just throw it on the roof. I
oh
wasn't sure.
no,
Oh,
that
it's just.
seems more
Uh,
humane than, well, who knows. I think that story was a little bit overblown by Mitt Romney, that he was putting his dog in a crate on the roof, and hopefully it was like a nice climate, a good sunny warm day. So it's too
I
bad.
think right. I'm just teasing. I am
No, the
just teasing.
worst is, was it at the vacation? I'm bringing back all the old early '80s movies today. I don't know why,
Oh my
but
God,
Vacation,
vacation.
and Edna on the roof, and the dog, and they forgot about the dog, and that is hilarious but heartbreaking to me. That was traumatizing. That one scene in,
Oh my
in
God.
Chevy Chase's Vacation all those years ago. To this day, see, I just thought of it. It just came back to me.
50 yards, Russ. 50 yards. That's something to be proud of.
Rusty. Oh my
Exactly.
god,
My
hilarious.
dad says I'm the best kisser. Those are classics. Classics.
Oh my gosh. Um, Anyway,
So,
so
so how did you get three dogs? That's a lot of dogs. Was it, tell us
well, you were present when I made the grand announcement about the third dog, but I'll tell you really quick. So our two are rescues. We have a beagle mutt Brody from the local humane society, and then Labradoodle Molly, who I know you have a human named Molly, so it's kind of funny again that we anthropomorphize our dogs that are this breeder named Molly Molly. But anyway, she was in two previous homes and was returned because she was very shy and skittish. But we have a little bit of an active household, so we were able to really make her comfortable. And so she's a wonderful family member. So those were the first two. And
Well,
then I grew up with miniature dachshunds. I just have an affinity for the breed. I think they're adorable. You know, the wiener dogs. Um, so I had just made a connection with a breeder and knew her for a few years and was back and forth. And anyway, there was no way Mike was going to let me get a third dog.
this is a great. I want to tell my side of the story, and you might ask yourself, Russ, you don't live there. You're not married to Lori. How do you have a side of the story? That'd be a fair question. But a bunch of us were over. It was like a social event. A bunch of us were over, and I can't remember how many people were left at this point. But let's say there were
A
four or
kitchen
five
full of people.
couples.
We were standing around my kitchen.
Still, were there 10 or 12 people there
Yeah,
still? Yeah,
whatever.
and
A good crowd.
Lori says something to the effect of, "Oh yeah, no, I'm actually I put down a deposit on a third dog. Mike doesn't know yet, and Mike is just over there in the corner with this group of people." So I think at first that she's joking. I'm like, "Wait, no, seriously, like no." She's like, "The dog's coming in 2 weeks, and Mike, I haven't told him yet." And we got to be there when Mike, who tried to keep he's like, "Excuse me, seriously, we have a third dog." And to his credit, I don't know what the conversation was like later that evening, but to his credit, I mean, you guys have a very healthy, constructive marriage. Everyone took it in stride.
Yeah, well, I mean, there was no way that if I had broken that news to him alone that it would have happened. He would have shut it down so fast. So it was my very devious strategy to tell all my nearest and dearest first, because then I knew that, oh, how could you not let Lori have another dog? And by the way, again, it was a very specific breed, a miniature dachshund. We had our first dog together, Bernice, a mini dachshund in Manhattan before we even had human children. I love that I have to clarify that they were our human children. And she passed away at 16 years old. And it was devastating for us, as you had the experience losing Grande. And as anybody who's loved and lost a pet, you know. So I had just always had a void in my dark and stormy heart for a miniature dachshund. And I felt that it was meant to be. And so now I have a dog for my dog and they all are the best of friends and they keep each other company and large, medium, and small. And I don't know, the only issue, it's been about a year now that we've had the three, is sleeping. The bedroom situation is a little bizarre.
Well, that's a very interesting. Let me tell you. So first you talked about Molly and how she first had some other homes that wasn't a good fit, and I'll tell you that I tried to give our Molly to other homes, but it also didn't work out.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry.
Come on.
That's just a
Not
joke about my
nice.
daughter.
Your
Just a
daughter's a rock
joke.
star.
Just a little daughter joke. When we had our first dog, Grande, and we were, I was happy with one dog. I didn't want the dog, but then I loved the dog. Um, one of my wife's friends got pregnant, and when she had her child, little baby, my wife called me. I was at work, and she said, "I just was with baby, Ethan, whatever the name was, and I really want another baby." I paused for a very long time, just wondering if there was more to what she was going to say. And when she called me back later that day, she said, "I just bought another puppy. What are you going to do about it?" Now, she claims she never
Not
said.
as bad as my move, but bad.
She claims she never said the "What are you going to do about it?" But it was implied. What can I do about it?
Is that Bella?
That's
I've
Bella,
met Bella.
baby Bella,
Very
and
sweet.
Bella, who is a small dog, now wants to sleep on my head. Is what she wants.
Naturally.
She wants to sleep.
Oh, your head,
Me,
not even Lisa's. So
no,
Lisa
she wants to
adopted the
sleep.
dog, but she's bonded to you.
She's bonded to me, and she wants to sleep right next to me. She wants to cuddle right up next to me, and it's actually become sleeping is a challenge. It's really a challenge.
Sleeping is a challenge.
Well,
I
a
don't want to
lot
go
of
down
things
that
are a
road.
challenge.
It's
A
none of my
lot of things are a
business.
challenge, but sleep, and some of them are a challenge because of the dog. But no,
Yeah.
it is interesting. How do you sleep with three dogs?
So we have 3 beds, large, medium, and small, around the perimeter of the room.
Which one does Mike sleep in? Okay,
Exactly.
I'm sorry. I
Actually, he's in a
apologize.
crate that we have up there as well. No. But somehow, and they all start in their beds, but somehow by morning, all 3 of them are in the bed with the mini dachshund laying horizontally between us like a wedge. Like, I'm
Got it.
not gonna lie, I mean, it's a little bit of a problem, and when you have a hard day, they definitely absorb a lot of the stress and anxiety of the household. And and he's great. So Mike, his job is walking them. He can handle all three. I can only walk two at a time, so I have to do it in shifts. Um, but they're really, really, we've spent a lot of time. And by the way, my sister's a veterinarian, so I do have a lot of help,
Ooh, that helps.
you
Yeah.
know, with advice and support, and God forbid when I need medical help, but for the dogs. Um, but everybody, my kids, it's like they really just do a lot to dissolve the tension and distract us in a good way. So that's kind of like our our evening family activity is just hang out upstairs in our bedroom and watch the dogs run around and play and conk out eventually. But they do migrate into bed. It's hilarious. They really like to be with us, and they get very stressed when we board them if we travel. So we're like a pack, and I feel like the family is full. So we do have more dogs than children, but that's in my heart of hearts. I do believe that's how it was meant to be.
Well, it's funny when you say that, and not if you're listening, you might not know Mike, but he has a lot of energy, and I feel like the dogs might walk him. But I think
Fair enough. Fair point.
it's a great thing that you get Mike and the dogs walked each night. That probably is
Well,
helpful.
yeah, I do. I have to tire them all out so I can get some sleep.
Exactly, exactly. I will tell you a true story. When I was a kid, my mother used to make me run around the block because I have too much energy. She's like, "Yeah, before dinner, you have to do 3 laps. I can't get out of my house." And so I can understand that. But I'll say that in our bed now, because Bella kept coming up off the floor and then like wedging herself, right like next to my face, I now have her small bed is on our bed because she's willing to sleep in her bed if it's on our bed. And now we're those people. In fact, we are fans of Modern Family, and someone in my house pointed out that Jay had dog beds by Stella, and I have dog bed for Bella. So,
Aw. So wait,
yeah,
there's a bed in your bed? You have a bed for your bed?
I have a bed for my bed, but Bella has a bed for her bed.
Listen,
Yes.
I think that's probably the way to do it because, keeping who knows when they're outside playing in the mud and rain, and you don't want that in your bed like I get sometimes. I do a lot of sheets, a lot of towels and sheets with the three
I'm
dogs.
sure. I'm sure. Have
So,
you listen? And I
yeah.
actually need your advice for this. So,
Oh,
number one, I was
okay.
thinking when your sister's over, I need to bring
Mhm.
my dogs, but because now I have expert help. But have you seen pet chiropractics? That's a real like you can see on social media pet chiropractors. Have you seen that?
Actually, yes, because dachshunds are prone to back injuries.
So
You
that's the
have to be very
craziest thing ever.
careful
Yeah,
with them.
please.
No, and I will say we did end up years and years ago. We had another dog, Brutus, aptly named, who sadly passed. This is about 15 years ago when our kids were little, and he did take a chunk, bit our daughter, and the vet referred us to a pet psychiatrist. And we went in. All there were four of us at the time, two babies and two dogs, and all four of us piled into this tiny dog psychiatrist's office, and we explained the situation, and the psychiatrist was like, "You, Lori, are the problem. This dog is not trained. Your kids are not trained. No one in this household is trained, and it's your fault." So, of course, Mike was like, "See, I told you, you never train the dogs." But we've learned since then. So, I mean, there are all these crazy pet specialties. My sister, she's actually out in Los Angeles, has a she's been in practice 20 years. She started a mobile vet business, which is so lucrative. People
That-
want the convenience of that. Um, Although she also, I shouldn't laugh, but it is wonderful when your pet, they do not get a long enough lifespan. We can agree on that. But this is, the cycle of life for our dogs. And so with euthanasia, it's much more comforting, right? If you are privileged to be able to do that in your home, and the pet can be in the comfort of its own home. So anyway, there is a refrigerator situation with my sister, and they do have to be a little bit careful. I
Wait,
shouldn't.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Hang
Yeah.
on. Can we pause here for a
Mhm.
second?
Yeah.
There's a refrigerator.
Well, if needed, if needed. I mean, it's not piled with
Remind me
body
not to
bag.
go to a barbecue at her house.
Well, that is the joke, and it's kind of a morbid gallows
Yeah.
humor joke, but
Oh my gosh. But
yeah.
but she genuinely has a
But it's a
fridge.
very in demand service. that she provides. And I
Yeah.
think it's a loving, comfortable way for a pet to pass. But we do have to tease her about the fridge.
Well, we love to joke. We don't joke about the pets passing. That part obviously
But
is devastating for them and for the
yeah,
families. But the and I can imagine that having someone come to you. Look, here's the thing. When I hear about all this, and all of it makes sense to me because I have pets, I have dogs, and I love them. But sometimes I wonder, why they hate us. I say they. Why people outside this country, people who are, especially folks who live in places where they have challenges. We have chiropractors and psychologists for our dogs.
right.
And so, man, I mean, those are definitely first world problems, but it's lucky that we have them. I will tell you, the first time I saw on TikTok or Instagram a video of a pet chiropractor. First of all, I thought I was watching Saturday Night Live.
Was it making adjustments and
It
stuff?
was making adjustments, and you see the dog's like, and then like the dog's kind of confused. The chiropractor does this little crack, and then the dog's face, which is honestly, I can watch these again and again because the dog's face is like, whoa, and is like, but then of course, maybe feeling some relief. It's an amazing thing to watch, and it's a real thing, and obviously it's probably very, very helpful. But that was, if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend it because it's actually very funny and warm.
No, I mean, you really need to have pet insurance in this day and age because you need to, people throw resources at their pets like they do their children. I mean, you've seen the pets getting the water, physical therapy. I mentioned dachshunds being prone to back injuries. That's another way that they'll rehabilitate them, or other, smaller breeds. But I mean, it's a wonderful thing if you are fortunate enough to be able to have pets and raise them in a way to like maximize their lifespan. And, it's really great because the gifts they give us are way more than anything we could ever do for them. I think we can agree on
No
that.
doubt, no doubt. They're just loving, and they're always happy to see you, and all of that's been said a million
A
times. But
million times.
it's so the value of it, if you haven't experienced it, I think it's easy to underestimate. That's all.
I think we have to leave it there.
That's it.
I think that's our show for the day. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. I love this topic. It was really heartwarming for me. Thanks, Russ.
Thank you, and thank everyone. Thank you all for joining us, and we appreciate it. And send us comments on crazy things your pets have done, or how they sleep next to you, or other. We'd love to hear it.
Or how crazy we are and how we need to maybe do a better job.
We'd love that too.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.